fairy tale, really.
The way we won it in dramatic fashion was one of the greatest games ever in Scottish football history.
The Aberdeen team were chasing 3 pieces of silver that season. They were also contenders for the Domestic League and Scottish Cup. For the city and its fans, it was like the glory years of the past. They went football crazy.
It was a great place to be about, and everybody was buoyant, down to the tea lady, down to the people that sold the tickets, down to the people in the street. You know, it was just a fantastic experience and a fantastic town to be in at that time.
This fairy tale began in 1978 with the arrival of its very own wizard, Alec Ferguson. Ferguson had dragged St Mirren into the Premier Division and at 35 was barely older than the senior pros at Pittodrie. But the Aberdeen players soon discovered when he wasn't waving his wand, he would quite often wag his tongue.
Hewitt, you bloody old idiot.
You lot are hopeless.
You'll never play for this club again.
Go home and look at yourself in the mirror.
Alec Ferguson came from St Mirren with a growing reputation as one of the best young managers around. Alex came and compared a lot of the lads to his charges at St Mirren, and I always remember the first team players taking umbrage at that, you know, and saying, well, how dare he compare me to one of the St Mirren players, you know, I'm much better.
But Aberdeen's record would suggest otherwise.
We were second in all competitions. You know, got to 2 cup finals and second in the league. So we were desperate for success, and we'd been close over the years. There was always a belief at the club that we could do something, that we were a big club and that we're capable of winning trophies.
A young Mark McGee, uncertain whether or not to leave Newcastle for Aberdeen, remembers Ferguson casting his spell.
It had been 12 years since they'd won the cup. It had been 25 years or so since they'd won the championship. So they didn't really have any current pedigree that, you know, was able to attract you. It was really about Alex telling me of the age of the squad, the young players. It was an exciting prospect that he was trying to put together a team that he was determined and convinced were going to do well.
And what Ferguson wanted, Ferguson usually got.
He always had this policy saying, right, well, whatever players, young players there are in the area, then we must make sure that Aberdeen get them. We don't want them to be going away to Rangers or Celtic or Hearts or Hibs. Then we must capture the local talent and make sure that we try and develop the local talent.
It was the great belief that Alec installed into the players at Aberdeen Football Club, especially the younger ones, myself, Neil Cooper, Eric Black, Neil Simpson. If you didn't have this mentality as a winner, then really you were no good to Alec Ferguson.
I played him at snooker one day and I did quite well, and he was a good snooker player, and he got to the point of nearly throwing the balls at me, you know, because I was laughing because I was beating him. But that's him, he's a winner. So he installed that into the team. He installed it in the people that maybe thought, well, we're just an average side. He just changed the mentality of the club.
Something was stirring. Big time. And in 1980, Ferguson's young Aberdeen side won their first championship in a quarter of a century.
They have won! Alec Ferguson is on now in the penalty area. There he's in. Can you blame the man for going out of his mind temporarily?
The league championship win was the platform. It gave us a core belief that we could do something special.
You realise now, looking back, what a tremendous achievement it was, and for Aberdeen, the club not to have won a league title for 25 years, then it was an enormous feat, and especially to break the domination of the Old Firm.
Ferguson knew it was as important to win the mind games as it was to win the football matches. He managed to convince his young team and the Dons fans that everyone connected with the Old Firm in Glasgow hated them. Of course, he neatly sidestepped the fact that he himself was actually a Glaswegian, and proud of it.
My memory of him is his determination to break the Old Firm domination.
Everybody's against you, the supporters are against you, the press are against you.
The haters, they don't want to come up here, it's too far away, it's an overnight stay, we're just a thorn in their side.
You've just got to go and prove off your own back that you're capable of beating them.
I think if we'd gone to Glasgow in previous years and got a point, or something, that was a big plus. But he made us go there with the attitude to win the game, and nothing but that.
Under Ferguson's leadership, the team had developed a swagger whenever they visited Parkhead or Ibrox. It was mind over matter. Ferguson told his players he didn't mind what the score was, winning was all that mattered. His players no longer feared the old firm, and they had learned to go to Glasgow and win.
We proved to ourselves that we could be winners and not just the bridesmaids.
Except no one expected this Aberdeen team to become Europe's best men. The Dons went cuckoo when they drew the Swiss side Sion in the preliminary round. The players set off on their first jaunt abroad with a bun fight mentality. More about doing your duty free than doing your duty.
It was like a school trip, you know, and just go along and enjoy it and see, let's see how far you could go.
John and I were having a pillow fight and I was getting a bit out of order, you know. Next thing I get a phone call from the manager, you two better shut up or stop messing about, you know.
I remember us having a hamper full of Cadbury's chocolate and sharing that most of the night.
I think we just thought it was going to be another round, but we're going to get more duty-free, you know, and I think that was as far as we looked.
I don't think at the outset of the competition we say, well, come on guys, we're going to win this season.
Not news that the manager would have embraced warmly. In any case, it was a mountain stroll as the Dons rolled the Swiss 11-1 on aggregate.
It was one of the most exciting times, waiting to hear who you were getting and also waiting to hear whether you were away first or at home first.
Fergie always used to say to us, I'm sure you'd rather be out playing in wonderful European nights on a Wednesday night like this rather than sitting in the house and watching Coronation Street.
The next round threw up Dinamo Tirana of Albania. The Rovers' return had charms that Tirana certainly didn't boast, and you'll never guess where Alec McLeish was when he heard the draw.
In the house watching Coronation Street.
Aberdeen's youngsters won the first leg 1-0 at Pittodrie and headed to the other side of Europe for the return. The team were about to experience a culture shock, and when you're naive, it's easy to mistake a revolution for cattle rustling. Come on, we've all done it.
During the evening, there was a military coup.
Some of our boys thought there was a cow escaped when they said it was a military coup, you know.
And the tanks arrived down in the square, and all of a sudden it was kind of mayhem.
There's that coup going, you know.
We stayed in a hotel, and I remember Dougie Bell vacating his room because it was full of cockroaches, and we ate cornflakes and Mars bars for the duration of the stay.
That particular confectionery helped the Dons work, rest and play a blinder. They held the Albanians to a goalless draw. In the second round, the Dons drew another team from Eastern Europe, Polish Cup winners Lech Poznan. In the first leg at home, Aberdeen cruised to a 2-0 victory. It wasn't the first time Eastern Europe had found itself powerless in the face of the Red Army. The Dons finished off the Poles in the return. They won that leg too with a single goal from Dougie Bell.
Niezłe dośrodkowanie I niebezpiecznie goal.
Ah, shut up, you're drunk. For Poznan, the party was over. For the Dons, it was just beginning. By early November, this young Aberdeen team had already played 24 punishing fixtures, but they had risen to the challenge. They were in the quarter-finals of the Cup Winners' Cup and at home had kept in touch at the top of the table with a 5-1 win against Dundee United. The start of the Scottish Cup campaign would see the Dons fighting on 3 fronts. But for now, it was the European campaign that was grabbing the headlines.
You're looking at the top German sides, the Bayern Munichs, the Real Madrids, all these sides. People would have been Aberdeen who, you know, but we were quietly confident, you know, as each game passed, you know, the confidence in the squad at the time grew and grew.
We played every round and every game with a kind of blind confidence. It was almost a cavalier confidence that, you know, we just never gave up.
The citizens of the Granite City, starved of success for so many years, lapped it up.
I've never seen the Aberdeen public get behind Aberdeen Football Club as much ever in my life.
You couldn't walk 10 yards without somebody saying well done. Whether it was the milkman, whether it was somebody that was selling this or that, you went in a shop or you know, he stopped at the lights or whatever. Just the whole place was buzzing.
While the Dons waited to find out the identity of their quarter-final opponents, they went on a charge for the Premier League title and in February went top of the league after beating Celtic. When the draw for the last 8 was made, the players trembled with excitement. The fans, Well, they just trembled when they found out football's biggest and best was coming to town.
That's it, we're out now. The mighty Bayern.
Aberdeen, small provincial Scottish club, Bayern Munich, one of the top teams in the world.
The bookies' favourites. Bookies are really wrong.
I think deep down inside that the majority of the Aberdeen fans, if they were honest with themselves, would probably have thought that we were going to get beat.
But remember, this is a fairy tale. And if you're going to live happily ever after, then the Olympic Stadium in Munich is a pretty good place to start. Aberdeen held the mighty Bavarians to a goalless draw. For the Dons, playing in unfamiliar white, it was up to then their finest hour and a half.
There's McGee, I think he'll try and resolve. He does! Oh, it's almost there!
They didn't really have a real clear-cut chance that I can remember in the 90 minutes.
I think that possibly that game was our best performance ever, in purest sense of sort of European-style football and going somewhere like that and passing the ball. You know, that was probably the best we ever passed the ball as a team in my entire time at Aberdeen. It was a fantastic performance.
There's a shot and it's brilliantly saved!
They were arrogant. Even when we drew with them 0-0 over there, you always get the feeling that they believed that they would turn us over back at Pittodrie.
And in that return match, when the Germans scored first, it was hard not to concede that they might have a point.
And that's the moment that Aberdeen were dreading.
But the never-say-die Dons hit an equaliser.
That's a great cross. Eric Black is there. It's off the line. No, it's played in.
It was game on.
And Aberdeen are level.
But Bayern weren't cup favourites for nothing.
And it's got a touch. McLeish. And that is a special goal.
Oh no, you know, it was a real sickener.
A deathly hush at Pittodrie when they scored.
I think we all kind of looked to the sky.
The team knew that escaping this would be nothing short of miraculous. With just 17 minutes to go, the Dons now needed 2 goals to go through. It looked like good night and thank you, Pittodrie. Until Ferguson pulled another master stroke. A John McMaster stroke.
That was unusual. You're saying to yourself, well, will that come off for us?
McMaster ambled over to Strachan to take a free kick.
We knew that what was coming.
It was totally rehearsed.
There was only maybe 11 people in the stadium that didn't know what was happening at the time.
Well, they couldn't agree, obviously. Strachan plays it in. The header finds the net.
It was a well-rehearsed mix-up routine. They both go for the ball at the same time. Check out it because they get in each other's road. The opposition switch off, they lose their markers.
We were on the move again. And, you know, they weren't ready.
Gordon would turn on, or John would turn on and whip in an early cross, and we knew it was coming, so we had to react.
The Germans were actually laughing at us.
And I think it was Jock Brown, it was the commentator, and he'd come out with the line, he says that was...
Carefully rehearsed piece of tomfoolery.
Germans couldn't believe it. I still to this day probably think that they don't believe it.
They were rattled. They were then rattled. So they've got a dilemma, you know, do they go for another goal or do they protect the lead?
While the Germans swithered,
There's Eric Black. The goalkeeper knocks it out. It's in the net. Sean Hewitt.
People say, "What did you mean it?" No.
Sean Hewitt's been on the field 2 minutes.
All I was concentrating was making sure that I made connection with the ball and it was on target.
We floored them. We really overwhelmed them with a combination of skill and Scottish up and at them.
What it did give us was enormous confidence again, and to have beaten Bayern Munich with the world stars that they had, I think sent a message that we were a serious team.
When we beat Bayern Munich, that gave us a belief that we could go on and lift the trophy. I think we went through our apprenticeship, went through our learning process, and we were ready for it. It was a wee bit, maybe like our destiny.
Destiny had other plans for Aberdeen in the championship race. The following Saturday, they lost to Dundee United at home and started dancing on championship quicksand. That sinking feeling was aggravated by further defeats to St Mirren and Rangers. The Dons slipped off top spot in the league. Hardly what they wanted ahead of the European semi-finals. Now for batter shy of Belgium. In the semi-final, the Belgian defence melted like a chocolate fire guard in front of the Aberdonian Fire. The Dons romped the first leg 5-1. The return game was almost academic, but there was a little matter of a Scottish Cup semi-final against Celtic to attend to first. Aberdeen's 1-0 victory came at a cost. 3 days before the Vattershire return game, Strachan, Black and Cooper were all injured. Worst of all, an injury to Dougie Bell meant his European campaign was over.
Was this the expectation? No, yeah, let's get the game round as quick as we can get it. Get us on the plane, get us over there. Let's have a go at this.
Despite the loss of 4 key players, Aberdeen only lost the return game 1-0 to record a 5-2 aggregate win. They were in the final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. Surely cause for celebration. Wasn't it?
The dressing room was like a morgue. You'd have thought, you'd thought we hadn't qualified.
The boss was disappointed that, although we get through to the final, that we had lost the game.
That took a little bit of the shine off it, thinking, well, wait a minute, we could have gone the whole way here without having lost a match.
He was vociferous. He wanted to win. He was desperate to win.
Some people are never happy, but the Dons fans were radiant with joy. Their team had confirmed their place in 2 finals, although the championship was sliding away. Celtic and Dundee United had edged ahead in the league, but Aberdeen fans were dreaming Swede dreams. For the moment, all roads led to Gothenburg.
Oh, wait a minute, this is serious now. We could end up winning this.
We kept pinching ourselves, we couldn't believe that we were actually in the final.
In the other semi, Ferguson watched Real Madrid beat Austria Vienna. Aberdeen were to face the charge of the White Brigade, but for Fergie, Real's reputation counted for nothing.
He says, we'll not tell the players. He says, we'll no mention to the players, but he says, we've got a great chance of winning this.
We would have played anybody, anywhere, and we were confident that we could beat them.
Well, we had no fear of losing.
And the whole club was absolutely flying at that point. It could do no wrong.
Never a man to do things by halves, Fergie kicked off his tactics talk with an episode of Footballers' Wives. He didn't want his players involved in marriages of cup final inconvenience.
Before the game, he had all the wives and girlfriends in, and he had a meeting with them, and he told them that they hadn't to give us any hassle whatsoever, that this was the most important day in our lives, and that any problems they had domestically, they had to come and see him.
He told Dougie Bell's wife, who was pregnant at the time, that under no circumstances was she to have the baby before the Cup Winners' Cup final.
We were immortal that fortnight.
And so began the exodus. The Granite City threatened to become a ghost town. If it floated or flew, the fans wanted to be on it. The ferry trip across was a real test of stamina. The lucky ones quickly found their sea legs, and the rest, well, they just got legless. There was even an airborne division, 50 planes in all. With the last man left in Aberdeen, put the lights out! Leave the wife and bring a brawley!
The amount of rain was unbelievable.
It never stopped raining. The pitch was sodding.
The soggy Spaniards weren't happy.
I could see the long-haired sort of Spaniard dripping at one side, and obviously it's a cup final, but it wasn't the way they wanted it. Undoubtedly wasn't the way they would have preferred it.
Yes, the big moment has now arrived for the 2 teams.
Always tested the surface, and I noticed that the ball was sticking. And I said to the guys, you've got to actually lift the ball for it to find the target. If you hit it along the deck, it's going to stick in the water.
Those words would come back to haunt Alec McLeish.
Obviously, the conditions were a key factor on the night.
It was too wet that night, but and mistakes were always going to happen.
The Dons got off to a dream start that night.
That was another rehearsed corner kick.
Striking now to find it.
The conditions probably benefited me there because the ball's kind of caught up and the goalkeeper's maybe not going through as quickly as it would have, and it stuck.
After only 6 minutes, the Dons were leading the mighty Real.
So a dream start for Aberdeen.
But 8 minutes later, disaster.
Nightmare.
That's a disastrous moment for Alec McLeish.
Just as you think things are going swimmingly, all of a sudden it bites you, and it's reality check.
The ground's heavy and the ball held up.
Oh, Alec, had they been so wise and taken thine own self's advice.
If you hit it along the deck, it's going to stick in the water. And of course it stuck in the water. I never practiced what I preached.
And as that nervousness then starts to creep in because we're level again.
Can we beat another big team? Maybe our luck's run out.
I suppose there is a little bit of doubt creeps in that we're not going to get there.
But every good story needs a twist, and Eric Black's ankle provided one.
That's a good cross to the far side.
I've gone up and I've come down and landed my ankle, and it just went like that. So the physio came on, and that was it. I was off.
Exit Black and enter super sub Hewitt. The curtain was about to descend in the most dramatic way.
Knows how to put the ball in the net.
Archie always believed in me. You know, he always felt that I was that type of player that could grab a goal out of nothing. And he did say to me, he says, "Hewitt, you're going to score a winning goal. You're going to score a winning goal."
The 90 minutes ended 1-1 and went into extra time. Fergie clearly wasn't sharing Archie's optimism about Hewitt.
He'd only been on about 5 minutes, John, and Alex saying, "Look at that Hewitt." He says he's not doing exactly what we asked him.
I remember Alec kept shouting from the dugout to get myself up the park.
And then Fergie began to think the unthinkable.
We're going to have to take him off. So we were actually toying with the idea of taking John Hewitt back off again because he wasn't fulfilling that tactical role he'd been put on to do.
Real made a sub too. Maybe they wish they hadn't.
The first thing the sub did was punch me at a corner, and it was the best thing he could have done, because if I was running out of any energy at that stage, it revitalised me.
I think both teams are showing little bits of tiredness here and there. Chances are bound to come. Benito is staying in that deep position. Sure, Real would rather have him in the box. Peter Weir. Delightful little chip forward. San Jose is the covering player for Mark McGee.
It looked as if it could still play a cruel trick on Aberdeen.
That's a foul, I think, by Willie Miller, yes. He did appear to...
And it was right in the last minute. And they got a free kick just right at the edge of the box.
Now it's every Aberdeen player back in his own box.
Oh, please, 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 please don't let this go in.
Very tense moment for Aberdeen, John.
Please, God, don't let him score.
The wall is lined up by the referee.
Please, God, don't let them score.
Oh, that was very close indeed. Salguero with a thundering shot.
I just saw the ball. When I say shave, it shaved the back post, and I thought, thank you very much.
That'll be Real Madrid's last chance, I would think. Last chance indeed. There goes the final whistle. Aberdeen have won the European Cup Winners' Cup. And the celebrations now begin, both on the field and off.
We're all scrambling to get first onto the pitch to congratulate the players, and I'd grabbed a hold of Alex, so he'd gone down, and I think I stood in the back of his neck or something like that. He's come on the pitch, absolutely drook it.
As Willie Miller holds aloft the European Cup Winners' Cup.
I remember the pictures of Big Doogie Rugby and the toothless grin minus about 5 or 6 teeth.
The whole
People hanging out their office blocks, out their flat windows.
Everybody wanted then as quickly as possible to see their mates and their families, and then I think it started to sink in, what we'd achieved already, that we'd beaten Real Madrid, and it was starting to hit home just what an achievement it actually was.
3 days after Gothenburg, Aberdeen thrashed Hibs 5-0 in the final game of the league. But it mattered little, since Dundee United won their game and took the championship by a single point. But there was one last charge: the Scottish Cup final. Come the day, Aberdeen had played 60 competitive games. A jaded, pale shadow of the Gothenburg selves, they dug deep and in extra time hit the winner.
And could be there, it is the winner. That will win the cup. Eric Black, 1-0. That is the end.
The dear old Scottish Cup now sat alongside one of the crown jewels of the European game. Alex Ferguson must have been purring with delight.
The luckiest team in the world. Oh, a disgrace of performance.
Were you surprised by the way that Rangers played?
Miller and McLeish won a cup for Aberdeen. Miller and McLeish played Rangers themselves. A disgrace of performance. They're okay in winning cups, doesn't matter. Their standards have been set long ago and we're not going to accept that from any Aberdeen team. There's no way can we take any glory from it.
Did we win the cup final or did we lose?
Ferguson would enjoy 3 more trophy-laden seasons with Aberdeen, winning both the League Championship and the Scottish Cup twice. In 1986, he took his template for success to Manchester, where, after a shaky start, United dominated the English game throughout the 90s, culminating in a historic treble, including the European Cup in 1999. His managerial imprint was perhaps to be his lasting legacy. Of the 1983 Aberdeen team, 6 players followed him into management. Willie Miller went on to manage Aberdeen in the 90s before returning to Pittodrie as the club's director of football. Neil Cooper managed Ross County before taking over at Gillingham and became a near neighbour of the much-travelled Mark McGee at Brighton. Eric Black also moved south to become the number 2 at Birmingham City, while good friends Gordon Strachan and Alec McLeish became rivals in the battle for Old Firm supremacy. But for all